Good evening and welcome everyone. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor. I'm pleased to welcome you to tonight's meeting of the Brighton Town Board for November 22nd, 2022. In a moment, we'll begin the open forum portion of the meeting. That's when members of the public have the opportunity to share their comments with the Town Board. For those of you that are watching us on YouTube or on our cable access channel, you'll have to log into Zoom, watch this meeting on Zoom to be able to access the actual open forum. There are detailed instructions for doing that on the Town of Brighton webpage at townofbrighton.org. As always, we continue to make our meetings accessible to the deaf and hard of hearing community with our ASL interpreters, Allie and Heather. Good evening, both of you. Thank you for working again tonight. Just as a reminder, the agenda for tonight's meeting, as well as all the materials we are using in making the decisions we'll reach tonight, are on the town's webpage. Again, that's townofbrighton.org. We'll start the meeting with the pledge. For those of you that are able, if you'd please rise, and I'll ask Council Member Corrado to please lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may see that we are wearing these stickers tonight. Those stickers which I appreciate Superakis providing to us. We're wearing them in memory of the 5 individuals killed in a hate crime last night, Saturday night in Colorado Springs at Club Q. Yesterday I joined Pathways for Peace and the Jewish Community Federation to sit in a community shiva to mourn victims of gun violence at Parcel 5 downtown. We sat in mourning for an hour out at Parcel 5. When the event was organized, of course, the organizers had no way of knowing that we would see another mass murder, another mass shooting murder, in this time at Club Q in Colorado Springs, right before this event, and it certainly made our sitting in community shiva all the more poignant and appropriate. As we gathered that day at the noon hour, we also, of course, had no way of knowing that Rochester would see another young person murdered by gun violence that very night. Let us work together. Let us commit to working together as we enter into the holiday season to end violence directed at the LGBTQ plus community, particularly violence directed at the transgender community. And let us also work together to end the proliferation of gun violence as we observe a moment of silence to mourn the 5 victims at Club Q, as well as the victim of last night's fatal shooting in Rochester. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. I am going to take these proclamations out of order from the order you see them on the agenda. The first proclamation recognizes this past Monday, November 20th, as Transgender Day of Remembrance. And again, in light of those shootings in Colorado Springs, it's even more important that we issue this proclamation. Transgender Day of Remembrance is a day to recognize, to remember, to mourn the victims of violence directed at members of the transgender community. The town of Brighton recognizes the equal rights of all people, including our transgender neighbors. I'm a proud ally of the LGBTQ+ community, and I know that each of my colleagues on the town board shares that allyship. To that end, tonight I'm reading this proclamation issued on November 20th, recognizing that day, November 20th, as Transgender Day of Remembrance in the town of Brighton. Whereas transgender people are targeted for violence at high rates, and transgender women of color in particular are disproportionately impacted by fatal violence. And whereas Transgender Day of Remembrance is a time to reflect upon the lives of those 32 transgender Americans known to have been taken from us this year by horrific acts of violence. And whereas the true toll of those lost to hatred, ignorance, and cruelty is likely much higher, and as the recent mass shooting at Club Q in Colorado Springs demonstrates, we have much work before us to ensure the safety of the LGBTQ+ community. And whereas remembering provides a time to celebrate the lives of those courageous, self-determined individuals who embrace their true identities and forge their own lives despite harassment and oppression. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and the members of the Brighton Town Council do hereby recognize and honor November 20, 2022 as Transgender Day of Remembrance in the town of Brighton. And we urge our residents to work towards a future where safety, basic human rights, and dignity are enjoyed by us all. Dated the 20th day of November 2022 and signed by the members of the Brighton Town Board. Our second proclamation tonight, and I'm going to invite Dr. Clark Hadley to join me at the podium. Clark is the president of the Brighton Chamber of Commerce. Brighton is home to many small businesses that play an integral part in our quality of life. The Brighton Chamber of Commerce is an important partner of the town, and many of our small businesses here in Brighton are also chamber members. Several of us are Brighton Chamber members as well. As we all know, the holiday season is an important time for small retail and service businesses. For many years, Small Business Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, has been recognized as a day to shop small and shop local. One of the many Brighton businesses that belong to the Chamber is the Bop Shop. Although the owner of the Bop Shop, Tom Cohn, couldn't be with us tonight, his is a business that chose to move to Brighton 11 years ago, and we couldn't be happier that he did. 11 years ago, the Bop Shop moved to Monroe Avenue in Brighton, and for a music and vinyl lover like me, the Bop Shop is the proverbial candy store, and yes, I'm that kid. The Bop Shop is just one example of the many unique and wonderful retail and restaurant and service establishments here in Brighton that benefit from shopping small during the holiday season. Working together with the Brighton Chamber of Commerce, as we do in so many ways, I would like to present this proclamation that I'll be reading in just a moment, declaring this Saturday to be Small Business Day to Dr. Clark Hadley, the president of the Brighton Chamber of Commerce. And as you'll hear, we want to remind everyone to shop small, shop local on Small Business Saturday, this coming Saturday. Whereas nationally, small businesses employ nearly half of all private sector employees. And whereas Small Business Saturday positively impacts local communities and encourages people to shop small all year long. And whereas the town of Brighton supports our local businesses and is grateful for the jobs they create, the boost that they give to our economy and our neighborhoods, and the entrepreneurial spirit they represent. Whereas today we recognize the Brighton Chamber of Commerce, an organization made up primarily of small businesses in and around Brighton, working to promote the economic well-being of our community, our businesses, and our institutions. Whereas the Brighton Chamber of Commerce, its members and leaders, play an integral role in the business and professional life of Brighton, and they are critical supporters of small business development and growth. And whereas today we also recognize Tom Cohn and Bop Shop Records, one of the small business members of the Brighton Chamber of Commerce, which offers a curated collection of new and used vinyl for our turntables, as well as live performances. And whereas providing excellent specialized service, Bop Shop Records is an outstanding example of a business and neighborhood staple that has successfully maneuvered through a changing industry and withstood the test of time. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and the members of our Town Council do hereby proclaim November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday. And we urge the residents of our community to shop small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. And this proclamation is signed this 22nd day of November 2022 by myself and by all of the members of the Brighton Town Board. Clark, I'm pleased to present it to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's get a little photo op here. Great, and Clark, if you'd like to
Sure.
say a few words.
Absolutely. Thank you all for inviting me here. I know Bill well because of how active he is at attending our events and working really hard to get to know all of our chamber members, and we appreciate that and the relationship we have with the town board quite a lot. I look forward to getting to know a lot of you much better as well. Thank you very much for this proclamation, helping our businesses keep dollars local through the holiday season here, and thank you again. I appreciate all of your time.
Thanks, Clark. Do I take this? Absolutely. And you're welcome to stay, but it's a busy time of year, and we understand if you don't. We now begin our open forum, which we hold at the beginning of every town board meeting. Again, as I mentioned, it's an opportunity to folks to share their thoughts with us. If you are here in person, please raise your hand so that we can recognize you. If you're participating in the meeting remotely and you wish to speak during the open forum, again, as I mentioned a moment ago, please join the Zoom version of our meeting. There are detailed instructions for doing that on the town's webpage, townofbrighton.org. If you are coming in from Zoom, please raise your hand using the Zoom hand raise function. Whether you're here in person or on Zoom, I ask all speakers to please state your name and address. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. I will give you a 30-second warning before your time expires. Now, we may not be able to answer your questions if you have some, particularly if your question or questions relate to matters that are not on our agenda this evening. But our goal here tonight and at every town board meeting during the open forum is to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with the town board and for us to be able to listen to your words. Therefore, please direct your remarks to the town board and not to the room or to any other speakers. And please refrain from personal attacks and from outbursts of any kind during the open forum, out of respect for the speakers and for the time of everyone here tonight. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to address the board during the open forum? And I don't believe there is anyone on Zoom that would like to, that has a hand raised.
Bill, if we have no one for the open forum, I move that we approve the agenda.
Thank you, Chris. Seconded by Christine. Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. We have, we have no public hearings tonight. Can I have a motion, please, Robin, to receive and file the communications?
Certainly, so moved.
Second.
3 items of communication tonight. One from Reverend Lewis Stewart, who has been the president of the United Christian Leadership Ministry. He was reaching out to let us know that UCLM was going to be giving recognition to our police chief, David Cathaldi, at a worship service that was held this past Wednesday evening. I was there, as was Deputy Chief Mike Desane, and it was great to see. Really appreciated them giving the chief that recognition. We also had an opportunity to really, as a community, to thank Reverend Stewart for all the work he has done over the years as an activist, as a community leader with UCLM. And Reverend Dwight Fowler will now take over as president of UCLM, and I know he will continue to do good work with the organization. Also, a communication from Stu Bloom, the program chairman of the David J. Kaufman Post 41 of the Jewish War Veterans, thanking me for speaking at their memorial service on Veterans Day weekend. As always, it was an honor. It's a humbling experience, very, very truthfully, to speak to a room of veterans and their families who have given so much, not only in uniform to their country, but in service to their community in civilian clothes when they get home. People like Mort Stein, who served on our school board and taught 2 of my daughters, probably may have taught some of the rest of your kids during his teaching career. So that was a great evening. Finally, the last letter is from Jennifer Cesario, Controller of Monroe County, with an update on our sales tax revenues for the 3rd quarter of 2022. Pretty good news still, although the rate of increase was less than during the first 2 quarters. Our sales tax revenues were up by about 4.5% in the 3rd quarter, and I think it's important to note that was after the gas tax holiday. So the gas tax holiday significantly reduced sales tax receipts throughout the state. And in spite of that, those sales tax revenues were still up 4.5%, and we are very, very close to what we anticipated for the full year at this point, which is great news. Paula, anything you want to add to that?
No, actually.
All right.
Good news.
So we have a motion to receive and file those. Any discussion on any of those? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy? Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Committee reports next. Community Services. Robin.
Thank you, Bill. The Community Services Committee met on Wednesday, November 16th. Among the items that we discussed were park issues. Our Lehigh Valley Trailhead has been rebuilt. We have experienced issues, however, at the privately owned woodlot that abuts the Lehigh Valley Trail at Tower Drive, in the gravel area being used as a tractor-trailer truck turnaround currently. People are parking on Tower Drive to access the Lehigh Valley Trail, and they're being told that they can't park there or they'll be towed. Tower Drive is a public road, so parking is not prohibited on the road itself. It is not posted as a no parking zone. We're looking into whether easements exist to provide public access to the trail itself. End of season park cleanup and maintenance continues. Staff have witnessed an increase in after hours activity in the parks, specifically in Buckland Park. Police have enhanced patrols of those areas to ensure public safety, but we would ask the public to mind the hours of park operations. In update to our recreation programs, winter spring planning is underway with many new programming ideas in the works. Fall programs are finishing up with payments to vendors being processed. Registration for winter programming will begin in the new year. Numerous indoor athletic leagues and offerings are underway from this fall, including Basketball League, Pickleball League, Cornhole League, which is brand new, and open pickleball play. Registrations for indoor athletic leagues has been robust, in particular for basketball programming, which is returning after a hiatus for COVID. The department is engaged in continued focus on program promotion through publications, social media, email, and the website, and of course, word of mouth. So please do look out for our offerings. We're also engaged in end-of-year budget work. In update to the Winter Farmers Market, bids for the next and final phase have come in, and recommendations have been presented to the Finance and Administrative Services Committee to move the project forward. In update to our Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Board, the board met on November 10th and discussed possible programs upcoming for 2023. In particular, there was a discussion about the best location for IDEA programming, whether the programs are run through Recreation or the DEI office here at town. There are some safety concerns that were discussed for program topics that may be deemed controversial, but also very important. And on November 14th, our senior leadership and elected town team participated in the first workshop on unconscious bias that was offered through our town's DEI officer. I think everyone would agree that we had robust discussions and it was a very well-run event. Thank you for all those who participated. In update to our clean energy community priority actions, we are waiting to see if our EV grant is awarded. Public Works has met also with Seneca Park Zoo and have walked portions of the Monroe Avenue GIGP to discuss possible new habitat within that stormwater retention program. An update to our council member on your corner, there was a discussion of the potential for a Town of Brighton logo pop-up tent to house our operations, and also a discussion regarding chimney swifts and swift roosts. The topic should be moved to the Conservation Board for consideration at this point. We also had a discussion about the Arbor Day tree planting and maintenance concerns that were offered by the Conservation Board. George Smith of the Conservation Board in Color Brighton Green noted that the increased planting of trees has not necessarily led to an anticipated increase in tree canopy. We discussed that this is largely the result of the tree survival rates among the trees planted in conjunction with our Arbor Day programming. And there was some discussion whether planting additional trees versus changes in routine care and maintenance of existing trees is an activity that may be better suited for Arbor Day, and also a discussion about the size of trees being planted and the correlation between the increased size of trees and the survival rates of those trees. So we're considering whether it's a better use of time and resource to focus on some annual maintenance with our volunteers on Arbor Day versus mass plantings that have been traditionally the focus. And then one exciting new topic of discussion was the potential for creation of a tree nursery in one of the parks to plant trees so that they can become established and then maybe use those trees to repopulate trees within the parks. So these are all discussions that are to be determined, but we will have an ongoing discussion within the Conservation Board and certainly within the Community Services Committee. Finally, we reviewed our draft 2023 Community Services Committee meeting schedule and found no conflicts. We have one upcoming event, the return of our Veterans Luncheon, which takes place on December 7th at 11 a.m. at Brighton Town Park, the Carmen Clark Lodge at 777 Westfall Road. It's a very well attended and beloved event, and we're excited for its return this year. So we hope to see a lot of veterans out. And the next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, December 21st at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center. And please do access the building through the Winton Road entrance. As always, members of the public are encouraged and invited to attend. That's all.
Thanks, Robin. Jason, Finance.
Yes, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee met last Tuesday, November 15th. Each of the items that were discussed in committee appear on tonight's agenda. Matters discussed include the opening of the bids for Phase 3 of the Winter Farmers Market, and that led to a detailed conversation amongst the committee and the board members who were present, and will be voted on in tonight's agenda. In addition, we also discussed the review of the RPTL exemption limits for senior citizens and people with disabilities. Assessor Pam Post did update the committee with a resolution passed by the Rush Henrietta School District increasing the limits for this deduction to $36,000 with a sliding scale to $44,400. There was an assessor's meeting that is taking place since our finance meeting, and Pam will be updating us at our next meeting with what she finds out from other neighboring municipalities. Our next meeting will take place on Tuesday, December 6th. We meet at 3:30 in the afternoon here in the auditorium at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thank you, Jason. Chris, Public Safety.
Bill, we reported on the November Public Safety meeting at our last town board meeting. We've not had a meeting since then. The next meeting will be December 13th at 0800 hours.
Thanks very much. And Christine, Public Works Committee.
Similarly, Public Works has not met since the last town board meeting. If residents have any matters that they would like addressed by the Public Works Committee, they can submit them online. By email. Contact information for committee members is at townofbrighton.org/publicworkscommittee. Also, a reminder to residents that Public Works service requests may be submitted online at www.townofbrighton.org by clicking the Report a Concern button and selecting the category of need, such as potholes or dead animal in the road. Enter details in the form. You can attach photos if you have them to help clarify the issue, and town staff channel the service need to the appropriate department for attention. So not everything has to go through committee. It can be dispatched efficiently online. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, December 6th at 9 a.m. in Town Hall.
Thanks, Christine. I'll just segue to talk about leaf pickup real quickly, since that's, of course, something that our highway department works very hard on. Unfortunately, this is the time of year when we're a little less excited that we are a Tree City, USA. We have quite a tree canopy most of the year, but they've fallen, and those leaves fell early this year. I think the early frost and the dry fall that we had really brought them down early. That has put a burden, probably a heavier burden than usual, on our highway department crews, but they continue to work very hard, and I'm grateful for the work that they do right now, 6 days a week. They've been working overtime on Saturdays these past 3 weekends. They have now begun the second pass through town. They're working, they were over in West Brighton, I believe, today. And they're picking up bulk piles now. As I mentioned at our meeting 2 weeks ago, Right now, they're not, they're picking up containerized leaves. At the same time, they're picking up the bulk leaves. That helps the bulk crews get through town a little quicker. We know that there are a lot of leaves that are piled out there right now. We want to make sure that bulk collection goes as rapidly as it can. Now, for those of you that are still raking or blowing your leaves from your lawn, please, again, don't pile them in the street. Driving up and down the streets of Brighton, I'm really disappointed at the amount of leaf piles I'm seeing in the street. There's a lot of reasons we ask you not to do that. Our residential streets, most of them are not that wide. When you pile those leaves in the street, you're cutting the street down, in some cases really not wide enough for 2 cars to pass. So you're creating a hazard for drivers. You're clearly creating hazards for cyclists. People are still out riding their bikes this time of year. Potentially you're causing hazards to pedestrians or even kids. Remember, kids love to play in leaf piles. Leaves piled in the street can also cause storm drainage issues. So for all those reasons, please, we say it every year, we say it every meeting, we really don't want to write people up for it, but please leave your leaves piled on the grass, either in the tree lawn between the sidewalk or the street, or if you don't have a sidewalk, right next to the street, but not in the street. And remember too, you don't even have to. I mean, we mulch our leaves, we take them over to Browncroft and you know, they're mulched. But you can do that yourself. Leave them on your lawn. Mow them if you want to speed up the process. But that will provide natural mulch and nutrients for your lawn. A little greener come spring. So in any event, moving from committee reports, thank you everybody. We'll go to new business. And Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, earlier today I reviewed claims totaling $580,844.42. Notable claims include to the Depository Trust Company in the amount of $50,780.63, representing payment on 3 bonds issued in 2016, 2017, and 2020, covering capital projects including the HVAC replacement in the Public Safety Wing and highway equipment, the Susquehanna Northumberland Drainage District, Blossom Road Sewer Rehab, and dump truck for the Sewer Department. Of that amount, $35,000 represented payment of principal. Also to Rochester Asphalt Materials in the amount of $36,805.74, representing payment for asphalt to pave Oakdale Drive. Also to Villager Construction in the amount of $6,986.20, representing payment for the paver rental to pave Oakdale Drive. Also to the Monroe County Library System in the amount of $27,110, representing the semi-annual payment to the library system for cost sharing for services. And finally to Schichtel's Nursery in the amount of $7,490, representing payment for the purchase of trees for planting. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Any discussion on any of those? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Chris, why don't you handle the next one?
Bill, the next item is to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with the Monroe County to accept 2023 Stop DWI grants totaling $10,294.73, and to accept any additional funds from the New York State Stop DWI Foundation from October 1, 2022 through September 30, 2023. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Can I have a
Second.
sec? Thank you, Rob. Any discussion? That's a long-standing program that the police department uses in furtherance of its DWI enforcement. Hearing nothing more, Dan, please call the roll on that motion.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Jason, the next matter, please.
The next matter seeks to approve a budget amendment transferring $30,000 to the police department's animal control budget for the purchase of a 2-stall dog kennel and related incidentals. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
This grows out of some changes in our community and a longstanding agreement on behalf of veterinary service providers which have been bought out by out-of-town owners and are no longer providing certain kenneling and other services to the town of Brighton and other towns. For a long-term solution, the supervisors in Monroe County are working with the county. They're working with Lollipop Farm, working with the city of Rochester, their Verona Street facility, to try to identify the optimum long-term solution, both from a facilities perspective, but also staffing. Obviously, a lot of towns, we're fortunate, we've got great animal control officers, but some of our towns, some of our fellow towns are really struggling to find those people. So we're hoping that a long-term solution will present itself, but until that happens, and that could take several years, this kennel, which has 2 stalls and can house 2 dogs, which we, our animal control officers, do sometimes need. That's the request. The kennel itself costs a little over $15,000, and then there are some incidental costs that in the aggregate we don't expect will exceed a total of $30,000. Chief, anything else you'd like to say about this?
I think you covered everything, and I appreciate your work with the other supervisors to try in the county to get a long-term solution for us. I think this is going to be well for the short-term needs, and like you said, the incidentals I don't think are going to total another $15,000, but that's just in case.
Yeah, Supervisor Dunning from Chi-Li and I have sort of been the ad hoc east and west side supervisors working on this, and I certainly give thanks to the other agencies, and we're looking forward to trying to get to a long-term solution. But in the meantime, I think this will work well. It is subject to the State Department of Agriculture and Markets approval. I know they've given you some preliminary indications, but they're going to want to see the final setup. So,
And Chief, will this be made available to the other towns who have the same difficulty?
No, it's not my expectation to do that. It's only a 2-stall kennel, and when we do have a dog in there that's under quarantine for rabies, we'll be responsible for going up there to provide food and water to that dog. So if it were to be opened up to other municipalities, it could turn into something bigger than what we expected.
any further questions? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Robin, the next one, please.
Certainly. The next matter seeks to award bids for general, plumbing, HVAC, and electrical contracting for Phase 3 of the Winter Farmers Market project in a total amount not to exceed $1,842,269. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Of course, this is the final portion of the development of the Winters Farmers Market facility out in Buckland Park. We have over $1.5 million in state grant money at this point. Like construction projects of so many kinds, the bids came in somewhat over that amount, but honestly, compared to some of the other things we're seeing in the market, these were pretty good bids, and we had multiple bidders that all, came in reasonably close together. So we're going to be looking to our friends in Albany to help us get over the hump. There may be some additional contingencies that we'll need to cover, as again is typical of any construction project, but we're looking forward to being able to do this work, get these contractors in place, and move forward. Construction has begun. There's site work going on out there at the site, but this will really get the structural part of that addition going. Mike, anything further you want to?
You covered it pretty well, Supervisor. The only thing I guess I'd like to add is, we're excited to get this thing started. It's a great project. Our crews have been working on doing the site work. We've been doing that with our in-town forces to try to reduce the costs. I think that's been a great thing for both our crews and for the town. It is an exciting project. So we're looking forward to get it going.
Thanks. So Robin made that motion. Who seconded it? I'm sorry, Jason. Thank you. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Christine, the next matter, please.
Yes. The next matter seeks to approve the promotion of Nicholas McLeod from laborer to skilled laborer. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Mike?
Sure. Thank you, Supervisor. Generally, when the sewer department, we hire folks as laborers with the intent to bring them to skilled laborers. That is the way the organizational chart is set up. Nick McLeod's, he worked for us for summer help. He's been with us not that long of a time, since August of 2021. So he's relatively new, but he's done a lot of good things since then. He's been able to relate to the public. He's been able to handle calls on his own. He's able to operate our equipment, and the most important thing, he's got a CDL. So he's demonstrated that he is capable of doing skilled labor work, so we're looking to promote him to that position.
Thanks, Mike. Any further discussion on this promotion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Burke Group for actuarial services for fiscal years ending 2022 through 2025 for base fees of $4,000 for full valuations and $2,250 for interim valuations. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second?
GASB. This is a requirement under the government accounting standards, and for that, I'll turn to our finance director, Paula Parker.
We have a situation, as many municipalities do, called Other Post-Employment Benefits, or OPEB. These are the benefits we give our retirees. Years ago, we still fund these obligations year by year, as you know, in our budget. However, the liability extends further beyond 1 year. So what Burke does for us is each year it will look at our retirees, it'll take into account the cost of what those benefits are, and then we upgrade that liability, updated each year. It is included in our financial statements.
Thank you. That's a better description than I would have given you. Thank you. Any further discussion on that? This is not new. We have worked with Burke for a number of years. Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to authorize the supervisor to amend the agreement with Penflex for the length of service awards program for the West Brighton Fire Protection District in an amount not to exceed $325 per month, and to extend the contract term until services are complete or December 31, 2022, whichever comes first. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
We are in the process of finalizing the termination of our level of service award program for the West Brighton Fire Protection District, which is, for all practical purposes, is a former entity. Services, of course, today are being provided by the Henrietta Fire District, but this is really just about the last piece of the windup of that process. And because it just takes a little bit longer than we had hoped. We're extending that contract perhaps to the end of November, perhaps to the end of December, but not beyond. Further discussion on that? And Chris, you made the motion. Jason, you seconded that?
Yes.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason, the next matter, please.
Yes, the next matter seeks to adopt proposed rules of decorum at public meetings. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second?
This is something we have discussed in our Finance Committee meetings, and I'll ask the town attorney to talk a little about this one.
Thank you, Supervisor. As the board knows, under New York State law, the board is required to hold public hearings, but is not required to have an open forum. This administration and prior Frankel administration has always valued open access to government and open comment. And so it's been our long-standing practice to have an open forum where the public can come in and speak their minds on any town issue. And that is something that these rules of decorum seeks to preserve and protect. And the rules of decorum before you really put into writing many of those long-established practices that this board has in place for making sure that individuals who come into the board meetings are respected, are heard, are allowed to speak without interruption, without harassment from the audience, that comments are made to the board, that it's done in a safe and peaceful and a manner that is befitting this organization. And so what you have before you really is a set of rules that seeks to put in writing those rules that you have long practiced, and that way the public can know what they can expect, that they can be expected to have that opportunity to speak to the town board. Some of the highlights are things like if you come into the town board and you have something to say, you're going to get an opportunity to do that. Generally, we don't require people to sign up in advance. Generally, we don't limit the topics other than it needs to be a town topic. We are mindful of trying to give everybody an opportunity to speak, and sometimes we do have a good crowd here, so there is a limitation of at least an initial 3-minute limit for individuals to have comments made within those 3 minutes, at the end of which, when they wrap up and if everybody else has spoken, the supervisor has the option of giving folks a second bite at the apple, so to speak. But the comments should be made in a respectful way without making personal attacks, without getting into any kind of exchange with members of the audience, because we want this to be a place where there is a free exchange of ideas and an openness to what our residents have to say. So that's a brief summary of what these rules will put into place, put into writing, really, what those practices that have been in place have been for many, many, many years. Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Ken. We do have a motion, and it's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Christine, the last item, please.
Yes, very nice one. The next matter seeks to accept a donation from Robin R. Wilt for clean sweep and electronics recycling and document shredding events in the amount of $750. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Thank you, Robin.
You're
And
very
thank you
welcome.
for the work you do in making sure those events come off as a benefit to the community. Discussion on
I'm very impressed that not only does the Wilt family staff these events. I enjoy seeing the boys when they come out, and when I'm able to make the event as well. But Robin has, put herself out there, brought her family out, and carried the load, and sends money. That's terrific, Robin. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
You're very welcome.
Any further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, can I have a motion to receive and file the October 2022 expense and revenue report?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye, and of course, this is just the first month of the fourth quarter, and the finance director, sometime after the first of the year, will update us on the fourth quarter as well as the year as a whole. Matters of the town attorney.
Supervisor, just one matter that I'd like to have in an executive session to discuss a matter of pending or potential litigation regarding the CCA program.
Will do, thank you. Matters of the clerk.
Nothing this evening?
Matters of the board. Then can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss litigation relating to the Community Choice Aggregation Program?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. I do not expect that we'll be coming back into open session after the executive session. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you especially, Heather and Allie. We appreciate your work signing for the community, and I want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. Stay safe. Go Bills.